Off the Track is brought to you by Windsor Park Stud, your first choice for stallions.
Yes, hi and welcome along to another Off the Track brought to you courtesy of Windsor Park Stud, and you'll be pleased to know I had a chat to Steve Till the other day, one of the main men there at Windsor Park, and they are delighted the way the season is going, and of course plenty more work ahead, mares to foal, and of course subsequently covering those as well. Well, our guest today is a man I've known all my working life because he's been in it longer than I've worked in the industry. It is Mr. Denny Baker. Denny, thanks for giving up your time to come down to see us.
Thanks for asking me, Steve. I think it's a privilege to be here.
Well, mate, I think it's going to be our privilege. I've got to say, people driving down Great South Road would probably, going to Auckland, either to or from, looking at the property of Hallmark Stud, would probably say you've had things pretty easy looking at the property now, but I would imagine it's still not easy, but it certainly wasn't easy at the beginning, was it?
Well, to get started is, and get a banner up and get an identity, that's what's the hardest part, and then trying to deliver an article that's you're proud of.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the beginning, because a lot of that, we always do this, Denny. You know, you've watched this show before. Look, I know there's another generation coming because Mark, your son's very much involved. But your involvement in horses, is it a family thing? Is there a tradition there with the family?
No, definitely not, Steve. I didn't know a soul in racing at all, albeit my mother's dad, Pop Henry, he was a sporting reporter for the 1ZM radio station before the Second World War. He used to get all the information for the Yanks at the end of the war, for the baseball and the gridiron. And during the 50s, he subscribed to the old British Racehorse magazine, of which I had access to, and that's basically for me that the thought around a thoroughbred was something that would appeal to me.
The love of the horse came from there.
Well, really, it did.
Yeah.
But we, as little boys, I had two brothers. We used to ride to school 5 or 6 miles on ponies. And so we were on horses.
So you're on a farm? Were you born on a farm?
Yeah, we're at a dairy farm at Waiuku, a lovely area to grow up, wonderful people there, just like where I live in Tikawata now. Yes, we had, and of course you've got to remember, I'm just showing age here, we actually used to drive the trip brakes and the tumble sweeps as kids because we were taught to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a lot to do with horses and had great horse people around us. My dad was good, my grandfather was good with them.
Not so much racehorse, but horses in general. So you did pony club and all that sort of thing?
No, didn't have pony club. I think we rode enough of the darn things morning and night going to and from school.
You used to race with your brothers? You got sisters as well?
I had one sister, yeah. Yes, we did used to race. We used to be late getting to school. Sometimes we didn't even go to school. We'd go straight out over the sandhills to the coast.
I've got to ask, so you didn't like going to school? School wasn't your favourite thing?
Well, it wasn't. It was great company. It was a little school, Maiora school, where I grew up. There was only, I think, max 24, 25 kids at a time. But it was a lovely place to grow up. They're great people. But playing hooky was easy because we'd just go head straight out over the sandhills. And because we had lunch, you see, it was dead easy. We didn't get back. And then, unfortunately, the school teacher saw my mum down at the Otow store and said, "Children not well, burn us." And she said, "No, they're all well." And then, but 10 minutes later, she said, "Well, what's the problem?" Because he said we hadn't been to school for a couple of days. So we got found out.
I tell you what.
We got found out, so.
It's strict upbringing? You got
the best upbringing, part of our upbringing was I spent 3 years at Sacred Heart College in Auckland, which I loved. It was a lovely place to go to school.
And you achieve academically?
No, I did not. No, I didn't. But I learned a lot of things and good quality things about life, Marist Brothers system, you know what I mean? Yeah. And sporting-wise, no, I didn't achieve anything there much either. It wasn't until later on that I sort of got my head around things.
Yeah. So, I mean, your sport did play a part in your life?
Oh, my word, yes. We do the usual Kiwi kid things, played rugby.
Rugby?
We did a bit of boxing too.
No, I didn't do boxing. Didn't do boxing. How were you at boxing? There you get your nose like that. I mean, geez, your beautiful features.
They're beautiful. Stop it there. Yeah. No, it was a boxing. It was a sport that not everybody takes part in, but I just loved the challenge of it. It wasn't going there to beat somebody up. It was more about learning to look after yourself. That was the challenge of it. Yeah. And trying to give the other fellow blood nose before he gave you one, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
All right.
And
So you left school, and what did you go to? What was your first job out of
Well,
school?
went home to work on the farm.
Okay.
And
How big was the farm?
it was only 100 acres in the old horizontal survey. In those days, it was goat country. It was pretty steep in the sandhills out the back of Waikato, out Otago. It was a lovely place to grow up. Not an easy place to farm, but we had a very happy life. And
So how long did you stay on the farm after school?
well, I met my lovely Linny, and
Very early in life.
Well, yes, she was a pretty good-looking teenager around town, and
Around town doesn't sound too good.
well, no, that's right.
Well, there weren't many to choose from, were they?
Well, there were actually.
Yeah.
So she's privileged. Isn't
Yeah,
she?
exactly.
But anyway, we were married young. Well, young by today's standards. I was 23, Lenny was 21, and we went.
Let's say it now. Let's just say it now, people. 49 years married. Golden anniversary coming up. What are you going to do for the gold, mate? You're going to have to step out. You know, it's not paper anymore. It's not silver. This is gold. You're going to have to make big go next year.
Oh, Lenny's pretty humble. She won't want a big fuss. You know, she's a very shy lady, and we'll do something. We'll probably go to the beach for a week, something like that.
No. See, life's going all right. Maybe it is as easy as we thought. Hey, listen, you're there. You've met Lenny. You've got married early, 23. So you worked on the farm until you're 23?
Yes, no, we worked on the farm up till then, and just as fate would have it, going on to where the horses came into it. Mark was born, of course, and another wee daughter, and a friend, Tony Stackpole, and at Lone Oak Lodge, used to run that place. He mentioned in conversation with a mutual friend, Warren Long, who's a man had a lot to do with Sacred Heart College. He, an old family friend, he mentioned that there was a job going at Kinross Stud, would you believe? My grandmother, my dad's mother, was actually on a deathbed in Waikato Hospital, and I called in there to see her, and on the way home I actually knocked on the door. And
this was John Malcolm.
John Malcolm.
He's at Tikawara.
At Tikawara.
Te Kōwhara, as we say. Te Kōwhara.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's take back Kinross Stud, because let's talk about the Malcolm brothers, because the heart of it really starts down in the Waikato here in Te Rapa, wasn't it? They stood Fairs Fair initially together. They were in partnership together, Jim and John Malcolm.
That's correct.
Fairs Fair went okay, went for 4 seasons. They had Admiral's Luck.
Yes.
Who... Fairs Fair, Admiral's Luck passed away after about 4 seasons.
That's right.
Just when main brace was starting to go.
Yes.
Fairs Fair, they sent to Elton Lodge, started kicking goals.
That's right.
And Jim and John said, hey, perhaps this partnership shouldn't work. They split. Jim stayed down at Te Rapa, and then Kinross Stud was formed.
Well, that's right. In the meantime, of course, they brought out Summertime.
Yeah.
And the Malcolm brothers, there used to be an old brand, MB. The Malcolm brothers had a big influence on New Zealand racing because of the likes of Fairs Fair, of whom they brought out here. It wasn't originally known that he did. And then Summertime came, and then the boys, the brothers, Jim and John, that as brothers sometimes do, things changed for them, and so they went their separate ways.
Here he is.
So
There's
Jim,
Summertime there. In picture
yeah,
show.
that's the boss there too.
That's the boss, John Malcolm.
Yeah.
So
He's a
he
great
was
fella.
by Summertime by the same sire as Admiral's Luck, is that right?
Yes, Precipitation. That was
Precipitation,
part of
and he was the sire of Mainbrace. So there was that reason for bringing him out.
Yeah,
I suppose.
that's right, and he was a good racehorse Summertime too. And I always remember saying to the boss, he was a good fellow, my boss. I really loved him as a man.
Did you always refer to him as the boss?
Yes,
Mr. Malcolm?
he was always Mr. Malcolm when I worked for him. He'd insist, call me John, call me JD, but I had that much respect for him, I couldn't really do it. But I remember asking him about Summertime, saying what was his greatest feature about him, because they suggested he had a difficult temperament. But he said his feet, he had great feet. Mm-hmm. So for what that's worth. And I know they had a little altercation at one point, he told me, and as he said, he ran for his chair, and then he thought, I've got to go and talk to this horse. So he sliced an apple up, went back and said, we've got to be pals. Yeah. So, he's a good...
Different ways of handling it, eh?
Well, he was a good horseman, the boss. He really was, and a delightful man to be around.
You are recognised as a great horseman yourself. We're going to talk about some of the people. So you've called it to see John Malcolm. Was the job offered straight away?
No, it wasn't. It was quite funny. I mean, it was a drizzly, rainy day, and I knocked on the door, and he came to the door, and I introduced myself, said what I wanted to do. I was in the room with him in the lounge we live in now for 10 minutes, He was probably sizing me up looking back, and he said, "Oh, you give me a ring in a fortnight's time." So I toddled home, but then the break was to tell Denny that I was going to make a major change.
Yeah. Because you're working on the home farm at this stage.
Of course, yeah. And had a little young family at the time too. So, but Lenny being Lenny, she accepted it all, and we went down. And a fortnight later, I rang John, as I subsequently called him, and he said, "Yes, you come and see me and bring your family with you." And we had this interview, and he took me out and he had Monticello there. And he said, "You hold on to this." Well, I nearly died. I'd never been near a thoroughbred in my life as such. And then we went up to Golden Plume, and we went to take the sheet off him, and the wind caught the sheet, and the horse bolted, and I thought, well, this is it'll be all over here. The boss quickly grabbed him, and he said, "I'll show you the house." Went from there, and that's where it just went with John and I.
Yeah, because he actually had 2 decent stallions. I mean, Golden Plume wasn't the worst either.
Oh, he was a very good sire, Steve. He really was a good sire. I mean, I can remember, well, he was by Golden Cloud, a very fast sire line, Cosmo, Como sire line, without going into all that detail. I can remember putting my first mare we ever served, or I ever handled with a stallion, was Golden Plume over a mare called Periarca.
Gee whiz.
She was by Abel Seaman. I remember as it was only 10 minutes ago. And the subsequent result was a little chestnut filly called Pure Luck, who could really run.
Yeah.
And Noel Crombie, who lives not far from here, as I understand, dear old Noel, who was a great jockey in his day, he raced it with a couple of mates, and Bill Winder and company. And also others I remember, Summer Praise, who Doug Worth had sent the Golden Plume, which subsequently got Golden Praise.
Yeah.
Who was
Kingdom
the mother
Bay.
of Kingdom Bay.
Yeah.
Then we followed down the road to their little place. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lovely story.
Because that's what I love about your story, Denny, is the little relationships you form to keep coming back. They interwove into your life as we go through. You met a guy, I mean, as I say, you're regarded as one of the best horsemen around, but you met a guy very early in your career called Freddie Dawson. You keep referring to him as one of the great horsemen. What was it about, when did you meet Freddie Dawson? And who was he?
Well, Freddie was, he was, if you were judging men on their ability about a beast, Freddie was probably the best I'd ever had anything to do with. The boss was a very capable man, and met a lot of other good people too, my word. But Freddie was a little bit different. He was a very quiet man, quite reserved, but a heck of a lot of experience. And if you want me to say, how it happened with Freddie, V.F. Dawson, Bart Cummings speaks about him highly in his book, his most recent book. We're all young, smart Alex leading yearlings around Trentham, and in the mornings we'd go around from building to building and go all over the place. Broke the rules a wee bit. But every time we lead out these yearlings, 10 or 12, 15 in a row, there's Bert Sweeney's and there was a David Benjamin's, all of us there. And but this old chap had come out with his very white hair, dear old Snow, of whom I didn't know his name at the time. We'd walk up with this big yearling. He'd walk out the door and he'd be thrown round and round the building, and this horse would be calm, and well, the horse is not fed or something wrong with it. The next day it'd be the same. The next day we'd be scattering stones and dust flying left, right and centre, thinking when they're talking and laughing and carrying on. Then it fascinated me that this little man would come out, and this was a man, he must have been in his 60s then, dear old Snow, and I don't know any family name even. So I asked the boss who this man was, and he said, he leads out for Freddie Dawson. So whilst we were leaning over the rail watching track work, I went over to Freddie and introduced myself and said that I was working with John Malcolm, and could I talk to him about his yearling? And he sat me down, and dear old Freddie, because he had 2 walking sticks, one in each, because he had broken pelvis way back with the horse that rolled on him many years before, and asked him about his horse and why it was so quiet, and he demanded to know why should it be any different, and I said I was fascinated, and he didn't tell me anything then. He just said, if you want to come to my place and talk to me, he said, we'll talk about it. And
Shades of John Malcolm again.
yes, great, yeah, very wise men, and so I did. I couldn't wait to go and meet Freddie.
That's a reflection on you too. You took the opportunity of John Malcolm bringing him back, and you rang Freddie Dawson and went down to see him. Is that right?
Yes, well, Freddie was true to his word. He said, come on down, and I took many of the kids down there, and we got talking, and yes, Fred taught me a lot, but it wasn't so much that one visit. It was many times when I was doing a lot of breaking in, I'd often call Freddie.
Yeah.
I'd come into a bit of a problem, and his calm composure about things and telling me to go back to the beginning, and away we'd go. It's hard to describe him. I really thought a lot of Freddie. He was married to Molly
Dawson.
Dawson, Molly, of course, who
Yeah.
was Jack Mackey's sister.
Yeah.
And Jack had the property next door where Lee Falou stood.
Yeah,
And of course, that's how he came to breed Lightfingers. He'd sent Cuddlesome down there, and I remember dear old Freddie saying, he said, I was very angry, Dennis. He said, got this chestnut filly. He thought, my God, I think Jack's made a mistake. He's put the other horse over it. And then he remembered some years ago in the Hawke's Bay where he'd broken in a horse that was by a bay, out of a bay, and was a chestnut.
Yeah.
And so, and then, of course, that was Lightfingers.
I remember that. Yeah, gee whiz. Hey, listen, you're working your way along with John Malcolm, stud manager. Got to top of the tree.
Well, yes, it was sort of, there was a lovely part about the boss. He was prepared to, because I totally told him that I didn't know anything about thoroughbreds as such, and that I'd been around horses, and I was just at his disposal, at his mercy, if you like, and just teach me what you want to know. And he did say at the time, he just had a man who'd been with him a few years and said, I want someone who hasn't got any ambitions or hang-ups about anything. So that's right. So we did things the boss's way right from the word go. And he was very good. He left things, after a couple of years there, he did go off to the Melbourne Cup, which he'd never been, so he paid the compliments when it was due.
He gave you the responsibility. Ultimately, though, he decided in around 1974 to sell out.
Yes.
And sell the property to Kinross Studs. They were a group of syndicators. They were going to syndicate. They had a horse, Asman. They, you know.
Yes,
well,
of course, you know, Monty Seller went by the board. I ended up taking him to Japan with Farringdon, Shifnall's brother. It's a sad, really. He should have stayed in New Zealand, Farringdon. He was a lovely little horse. But I took him by sea, 14-day voyage, great experience.
Yeah.
Met some nice people. And then, of course, this great thrill. I remember sitting there with the boss going through all these time form books to find Asman, because he's out of a half-sister to Pakistan. So he had a lot going for him. I remember when he arrived, I had these rose-coloured glasses on, and the float door went down, and I couldn't see anything else but this lovely bay horse. But the boss was there, and he most disappointed. He had scars on him and skin damage and what have you. Didn't see him for 4 or 5 days. We got it sorted in the end. I mean, we called old Harry Hughes up to come and have a look at the horse. But
He's the vet.
a great old vet, yeah. Met a lot of good men in that regard. Harry was one, Scaler Blakely, James Blakely, Len Smith, good men, really good men. And great to work with, that was the best part. We've got them there now, working with.
The property was sold.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well, he got Asman underway, he had his first crop of foals on the ground, and then an agent walked down, and it was the days of the $100,000 yearlings. And this agent said that he had people who wanted to breed $100,000 horses. So anyways, we talked to these people who came in, and the boss subsequently sold to them.
Sold lock, stock and barrel.
Everything.
Horses and property.
Sold the lot. And they came up with a massive figure, and because of the way the financial structure was then, the boss had some money left in there. So it was by mutual agreement that I would stay for whatever time it took, for a couple of years with the new people, which were the Walker family. And the boss went on his way. But the Walker family were a little bit misguided by the high-flying figures, and they were a little bit unlucky. The yearling market fell away, and what they'd paid for weanling prices, which were very fair at the time, they were lucky to get back what they did. So they got quite disillusioned. They gave up work to carry bricks, really, because they were hard-working people and they made a lot of money.
So the 50 acres that I remember you being on, Hallmark, which was about a kilometre and a half down the road. Had you bought that at that stage and were developing it, or was it subsequent you realised to say, Lenny, look, we're going to move out of here, we're going to set up on our own? Was that the decision made? Or
No, I tell you what it was. The boss was so good to me that he always let me have a couple of mares there, and actually I bred a golden plume filly, of which we sold at Claudelands for $3,500. I thought I was made, which I was made actually, because I helped put a deposit down on some dirt.
50 acres?
The 50 acres, and it was bare land, 2 titles, just down the road on the eastern side of the highway. And it was getting to the point where I didn't want to impose on the boss all the time, and if I had a few acres of my own, I could put the mares down there and didn't want to abuse the privileges I had there. So that's how we bought the 50 acres. And then things weren't panning out all that well, really, with the Walkers. Nice people, but didn't quite understand the game. And they'd got a hiding, so it meant that they actually put all the staff off, and I was the only one there doing it with them. And that's okay too, but there was 25 yearlings, and we used to do all these feet, and we do everything. It was good.
Well, the story of Hallmark has just been born. We're going to be back after this break as we continue the life and times of Denny Baker.